It is not letting me go live. I might have to get back in. Hey Gayatri, I made you a co-host. Do you have a
Sure.
start webinar button? And if you do, can you try pressing it?
Oh, hold on 1 second.
Thank you.
You want me to press
We.
start webinar. Okay, can I do it now?
Yes, please.
All right, we'll do that.
Megan, can you make me host again?
When do I start?
At the 0 count.
Good evening. Welcome to the City of Palo Alto's second Wellness Wednesday event. I'm Gayatri Kant, Interim Director of Library Services. Wellness Wednesdays is held every third Wednesday of the month at 5 p.m. and focuses on building community wellness and well-being. You can see the upcoming schedule at www.cityofpaloalto.org/bewell. You can also view recordings of our past programs on YouTube. Our second event today will focus on a very important topic of earthquake preparedness. It's very hard to consider emergencies beyond the pandemic, but our Office of Emergency Services has a mission to prepare our community for all hazards. Our main presenter today is Nathan Rainey, a native of Rockingham, North Carolina, and now a resident of Palo Alto. Nathan Rainey has served as the City of Palo Alto Emergency Service Coordinator for the Office of Emergency Services since 2012. His responsibilities include emergency planning, city staff and community training, community preparedness outreach, logistics management, and volunteer management of the city's emergency services volunteer program. Prior to his current position with the City of Palo Alto, Nathan served for 21 years in the US Army, retiring as a lieutenant colonel after serving in assignments from the small unit to the strategic levels of our military. Nathan also deployed to Iraq twice in support of Operation Iraqi Freedom. He holds a Bachelor of Science degree from the United States Military Academy and a Master of Business Administration degree from the University of Phoenix. Now on to Nathan.
Earthquake rumbled through here. It was powerful. This is what it did to the earth. We're out in the desert. Imagine what it felt like in nearby cities.
Get under the table. Get under the table. Oh my God.
It struck with fury at 8:19 p.m.
Oh, the front door came open. That's okay. It's okay. Just hold on.
This the moment of impact near the epicenter in Ridgecrest.
This is bad.
The powerful 7.1 earthquake sending terrified customers searching once again for cover.
Everybody okay?
Shockwaves of fear rippling across Southern California.
Oh my God. Oh my God.
The quake felt as far away as LA, Vegas, Phoenix, even Sacramento.
This is a very strong earthquake.
The terror playing out on live TV.
We're experiencing very strong shaking. I think we need to get under the desk.
At the Dodgers game, a stunned crowd. They played on.
I think we got another earthquake.
Yep, we definitely have an earthquake going on.
What began as violent jolting lasted nearly 30 seconds. Fires sparked in Ridgecrest while power went out. Residents too afraid to sleep inside.
It's really scary to be in the house.
Incredibly, no one was killed.
Oh my gosh, there's a rock slide.
Roads and highways blocked, buckled, and in shambles. At the East Ridge Market, the jolt captured on camera.
For many, it's still too early to estimate the damage. The owner of this store, who has no earthquake insurance, estimates it tops about $100,000. This is what every aisle looks like. The cleanup could take days, even weeks.
With the 7.1 registering as the largest quake in 2 decades for the region, what seemed like the main event Thursday was just a foreshadow. Friday's jolt 10 times stronger. Tonight, with fault lines growing, so is the fear.
To give you some perspective, this shows the power and strength of that jolt. We're out in the Mojave Desert here, and the ground shifted several feet. Imagine had this happened in downtown Los Angeles under a building. That was a disaster that was averted. There have been 2,500 aftershocks so far.
Good evening, everyone. So when is the next big Bay Area earthquake going to happen? Where will it hit hardest? How big will it be? If you know the answer to these questions, please let me know. It will make my job a lot easier. Earthquakes, as many of you know, are a reality for Californians, but the interesting thing is that large earthquakes, greater than 5.0 or so, don't happen all that often. As a result, over time, we get complacent. It happens with the best of us. I hope that this Wellness Wednesday talk today will encourage you to shrug off this complacency and advance your own preparedness. I will answer questions at the end of this presentation. If you have a question, please type it into the Q&A field in your Zoom screen. Newsflash, plate tectonics are a real thing. And in California, we live where 2 plates are slipping against one another. The Pacific plate is moving north while the North American plate is moving south. Over time, faults develop where these plates come together, and in our region, there are 2 primary high hazard faults. The San Andreas Fault to the west of Palo Alto by only 5 miles, and the Hayward Fault to the east of Palo Alto by 15 miles or so. This is what those in the military would call danger close. These faults are also historically very active. There are thousands of quakes each year along the faults. Most of them are generally small, so small we don't feel them. But there have been very few large quakes. The last big one was the 1906 San Francisco earthquake on the San Andreas Fault of 7.9 magnitude. That's big compared to other California quakes. The 1989 Loma Prieta earthquake, 6.9 magnitude. The 1994 Northridge earthquake, 6.7 magnitude. Or the 2014 Napa earthquake, which is a 6.0 magnitude, not to mention the Ridgecrest earthquake that we saw in the news video at the beginning of this presentation, which was right at 7.0. If we look at earthquake activity just in the last week, we'll find a number of small magnitude 2, 3, and 4 quakes all across the state. And while no one can predict earthquake occurrences, the United States Geological Survey, based on historical earthquake patterns, predicts we are due for a 6.7 or greater magnitude earthquake by 2043. similar to what was seen in Northridge or Loma Prieta, unless, of course, it's bigger. It is instructive to understand that earthquakes usually come in clusters, from a handful to hundreds or more over a short time period. Because of this, we don't know when the largest shock will come. So once the shaking starts, we have to be ready for others. Where we are here in Palo Alto, sandwiched between two faults, is an area at risk to severe shaking. While magnitude is one way to describe the size of an earthquake, we can also measure intensity, which describes the amount of shaking. The higher the intensity, the greater the damage will be. The San Andreas fault can produce level 8 and 9 intensities. If we see this level of shaking, we will have major damage across the region. Several key factors affect the level of impact of the shaking, and these include the distance from the earthquake, the depth of the quake in miles, the length of time of shaking, seconds to minutes, and even the composition of the soil.
Nathan, sorry to interrupt you. You have not yet shared your screen.
Say that again, David.
You did not share your screen.
Okay.
There you go. Thank you.
Okay, so what contributes to this shaking? There are two significant seismic waves that earthquakes create. They're known as P and S waves. P waves, primary waves, pictures 1 and 2 on the graphic, or pictures A and B on the graphic to the right, are vibrations in the earth that move parallel to the direction of the wave. As a result, they travel faster than S waves and do little to no damage. Sound waves are a type of P wave. At the right frequency, these can be heard by animals or even people. S waves, secondary waves, pictures C and D, are vibrations that run perpendicular to the wave and are what causes the majority of damage. Now that we have a good understanding of the threat, let's look at how we can mitigate and prepare for all of this shaking. So step 1 to earthquake safety is to identify hazards in the home. This step is the easiest and most affordable to take. It doesn't require much effort, but provides a lot of benefits. Start by doing an inspection of your residence to find objects that could fall over during heavy shaking. Then move the furniture that could fall away from areas of high use, such as sofas, sitting areas, and children's play areas. The items that might fall over could be bookcases, floor-length mirrors, china cabinets, storage units, and things like that. If you can't move these objects, then secure them to wall studs with earthquake anchors. You can purchase these materials at most hardware stores. Adding latches on cabinets to prevent them from opening is also a smart idea. We see lots of spillage, especially in kitchens and bathrooms following earthquakes. So at this time, I would like to introduce you to Ms. Karen Pauls, who is going to share with you a program that helps neighborhoods to work as a team to secure spaces in the home. Karen is a longtime Palo Alto resident, a volunteer leader in our Emergency Services Volunteer Program, and a former employee of the Office of Emergency Services. Welcome, Karen.
Hi, everyone. So thank you, Nathan. And I am excited to share this really fabulous opportunity for getting some assistance for your neighborhood, your block, your organization to get some assistance with getting prepared for an earthquake. As Nathan said, I am a co-leader with Annette Glenkoff on the Emergency Services Volunteers team, the neighborhood teams. And so Nathan's going to talk a little bit more about that program later, so I'm not going to go into it. But basically what Annette and I do is we assist our neighborhood leaders to build their teams. And we also work with OES to try to help them make Palo Alto more resilient. So Nathan, last fall, sent Annette and I a heads up that an organization called the Earthquake Country Alliance has these mini grant awards, and he suggested we check it out. So Annette did 90% of the work, and the two of us each submitted a grant proposal. I got lucky and I got mine. And I encourage everyone to check out the Earthquake Country Alliance website. You basically, you can sign up to be a member, it's free, and then they keep you up to date on webinars and workshops they're having. Most importantly for this, they will give you, they'll send you a notification in the fall about these grants. And so if you get on the list now, then you can just not worry about it until next November when they send you that heads up. So the grants this year were $500 or $1,000 grants in the not in cash, but in goods. So in supplies like go bags for earthquakes or any emergency, or the secure your space tool, the hardware kits. And the application, I have to say, was very, very easy to submit. And the timing was basically, we submitted early December, and then we got notified early February. There was a workshop that I went to that was really well done. And then we received the supplies end of March, and we have until the end of May to complete our project. And so it's really a 6-month time period, but still very, very easy and straightforward. So our grant was to get 20 of these home fastener starter kits. Each kit costs about $25. It's really the newest, top of the line hardware for securing anything in your house, from large furniture, TVs, pictures and cabinets, that kind of thing. And so one of the, you can see here, I put a little tidbit that I learned, which I think was a surprise to me, but I'm sitting here in my living room looking at my large TV that is completely unsecured at this moment. And so if I had any kids, I would not now be comfortable with them sitting on the floor in front of it. So encourage you to check it out. And Nathan, you can go to the next slide. So what we did for our proposal is we have an existing organization. And so we are always interested in getting more people involved and getting more of our neighbors prepared for a disaster. So what we've done, that's Annette and I, and really all of the neighborhood leaders as a group, we selected 2 neighborhoods to do a very targeted recruitment program. And so we're going to use these secure your space kits as a little carrot or an incentive to get new volunteers in those neighborhoods. We're hoping for 10 new volunteers in each of those neighborhoods. And then they're going to get the kit, and their NPC, their neighborhood leader, and also myself, since I've been to the training, we are going to help them secure items in their house. And that is going to help build a bond between that brand new volunteer and their neighborhood leader, and also to learn for themselves all about, the benefit of securing your space. And so then whatever doesn't get used in the kit, they can hand off to another person in their neighborhood, on their block, their next door neighbor, or they can hand it off to another of our volunteers that's on their team. So our goals are to get, as I said, get more people prepared and get more people safe and increase the awareness of our program, and also to add more volunteers, hopefully more of your neighbors. So that's it for me. I'm sure I missed stuff, but that's it. Thank you, Nathan.
Okay, thank you, Karen. That was really great. And I appreciate you sharing that information. These kits are really great, and they help to make your homes much safer with all the large furniture that we have inside of our homes these days. So every family, business, and community organization should have a basic emergency plan because we live in an area of multiple hazards. Both the Federal Emergency Management Agency and the Red Cross encourage everyone to make an emergency plan, know how to receive emergency notifications, how to stay informed, and to build an emergency supply kit. Because we live in earthquake country, these plans should include earthquake-specific considerations. So we've talked about securing your space as step one. With that done, you should identify safe spaces in each room to withstand an earthquake. Your home might be damaged during the shaking, so make an evacuation plan that affords 2 ways to exit every room. Select a safe meeting location outside and then practice your plan. Plan also for what happens if the earthquake happens during the day and if it happens in the evening. Where is your reunification location? You know, the spot that your family members are going to meet when you're spread out throughout the day. And if you have children, what is the release policy of the school? Have you designated alternate friends or family who can pick your kids up from school? What about sheltering? If you live in a single family residence, we encourage you to develop a plan to shelter in place. Shelter at your home, even if it has some damage. Use your yard, your garage, or outbuildings to be as self-sufficient as possible. You may be able to seek shelter with local family or friends whose homes are not damaged. Work on those connections now. Finally, you can go to an emergency shelter once it is established, but know that this should really be your last option, not the first. The city, in conjunction with the Red Cross, will establish shelters at community centers, high schools, or houses of worship, depending on what is not damaged after an earthquake. And the city will send out notifications when shelters are available. We also know that neighbors are sometimes the actual first responders. So we encourage you to form neighborhood networks now. Get to know your neighbors. Participate in block parties, social gatherings, the Cool Blocks program, or the Emergency Services Volunteer Program that Karen just mentioned. Learn what special skills or needs your neighbors have. Plan to work together when there is a local emergency. You can fill out an emergency plan online and keep it on your mobile device by downloading the Santa Clara County Ready SCC app. The logo for that is here on the screen, and a quick search on your internet browser will, I'm sure, allow you to find that. Have you registered to receive emergency notifications from the city? If not, sign up at alertscc.org, the county's mass notification system. Stay connected to local information. Follow social media connections with the city. You can use Twitter, Facebook, Nextdoor, Nixle, and others. Listen to KZSU 90.1 FM, that's the Stanford radio station, as well as KCBS 106.9 FM for regional information. Have a plan to stay in touch with family members if possible. Text will work better than voice messages on cell phone towers that are still working after an earthquake. Social media will work as long as there is an internet. Part of your emergency planning includes developing an emergency supply kit. Again, this is a basic task for anyone, but because earthquakes could impact our vital lifeline systems, we must be prepared to survive for a week or more. So we recommend obtaining supplies for 7 to 10 days. In this case, more is better. There are many items to consider, but here are a few essentials you should have. First aid supplies to treat, hopefully, what will just be minor injuries. Food with long-lasting expiration dates. Food that you like to eat, and a variety of dry and canned goods. A way to heat water or food outside your home in case it's damaged. Enough water for 1 gallon per person per day for 7 days. For a family of 4, this is 28 gallons. Extra batteries for your flashlights, portable radios, and other electronic gear that you use. And Use lithium batteries instead of alkaline batteries. The lithium batteries currently come in AA and AAA sizes. They have a long shelf life and don't leak like the lead acid batteries do. And if you're on a tight budget, get a little at a time, enough for 3 days to start, and then start building up to 7 days. Building up over time is also a little bit more easy, a little more feasible, and allows you time to figure out what you like and what you don't like, what's easy to store, and where to store the items as you start to accumulate more. Consider that unless your home is completely destroyed, you can and should plan to use some items in the house, such as food from a pantry, cooking supplies, bedding, and medications. If possible, it's smart to have kits in 3 places. A main kit, preferably outside the main house if that's possible, but we know that with some apartment and condominium dwellers, that's not always available. A smaller emergency kit in your car for when you are running errands, commuting, or traveling, and a very small kit under the bed in case you are in bed when the earthquake happens. If you get trapped in your room, having a small kit will help until we can get you out. It is also important to maintain your kit. Some items you store will expire, mainly food and first aid supplies. So rotate these into your weekly household routines at the right times. Don't forget, your car can be a part of your plan. Always keep it at least half full of fuel. And if you have an electric vehicle, recharge it every day. There are many emergency supply lists you can find online. We have a few at cityofpaloalto.org/preparedness. So my main message to you this evening is don't wait, start preparing today. It is possible you may have to relocate from your home if it is damaged after an earthquake. Having access to important documents is important. You can see a short list of possible items on this slide. There are many others you could also consider. So store originals in a safe place in your home or in a safe deposit box. Store copies digitally on a memory device or in the cloud. Make sure it's password protected, of course. Recognizing the high earthquake risk we face in the Bay Area, obtaining earthquake insurance for your residents is worth considering. Just like flood insurance makes sense if you live in a flood zone, earthquake insurance could make sense as well. The California Earthquake Authority is a not-for-profit organization established by the state legislature in 1996 to assist with providing earthquake insurance. It is publicly managed, privately funded, has an $18 billion claim paying ability, and has participation from more than 25 insurance providers. Finally, you should make sure your home is able to resist an earthquake. Homes with foundations must be bolted, and those with cripple walls should be braced to keep your home from shaking off its foundation. For those homes without these safety features, there is a brace and bolt program you can take advantage of. Mr. Dan Mellick, a Palo Alto resident and longstanding member and community emergency response team leader of our emergency services volunteer program, is going to talk for a few minutes about his participation in the brace and bolt program. Dan, please take it away.
Okay. There. So, Nathan, can you go to the next slide? Yes. The Earthquake Brace and Bolt program was started by FEMA in 2018, and it was designed to help people who own older homes in earthquake areas. The program can provide up to $3,000 to these homeowners to retrofit their cripple walls, if your house has cripple walls, and also to bolt the house to the foundation. And I'll give you some examples of what these look like in a minute. One other advantage is that if you buy earthquake insurance, they say that you can probably get up to a 25% reduction in the cost of your earthquake insurance. At the present time, the registration for new brace and bolt applicants is closed. But from what I've been reading and talking to people about, it looks like the registration will open up again in the fall. There are two ways you can do, once you're approved, there are two ways you can do this. You can do it yourself, which I don't recommend because there are lots of rules, lots of documentation, and the work isn't very easy because it involves doing a lot of work underneath the house, crawling around and drilling holes and things like that. Better is the contractor installation, which I've opted to do. The contractor pretty much does everything. They come in and measure your house and provide documentation and do all of that. The average cost is about $7,000. So the $3,000 that FEMA gives you only covers a part of it. In my case, since I'm not doing, I don't have any cripple walls, my total cost is just under $6,000, which is very good. So I'll wind up paying $3,000 and FEMA will refund or grant me, hopefully, another $3,000. Next slide, Nathan. There are 4 steps in this program. But before I talk about that, let's take a look on the right. And this is an example of a cripple wall and a braced cripple wall. So what is a cripple wall? In many older homes, I mean really older homes, particularly Victorian style homes, the main floor of the house is not resting directly on the foundation. It is resting on walls that are supported with beams, and those beams rest on the foundation. Now, what can happen here is that when an earthquake starts, these cripple walls can sway all directions, back and forth, and eventually may collapse. If they collapse, your house is toast. So what the bracing program does is they come in and they go under the house and they put 3/4 inch plywood all around the perimeter of the house on the cripple walls. And basically that prevents the wall from moving in the direction of the plywood. But if you have it on all 4 walls, it basically makes the house much more solid. If you have cripple walls installed, then you probably also will have to bolt those cripple walls to the foundation. So that's a double hit. Cripple wall bracing and bolting generally run in the $10,000 to $15,000 range. Fortunately, in my case, we don't have to do that. So the steps in the program are pretty easy. There's a pre-retrofit program, and that involves applying to FEMA for introduction to the program. I did that about a year ago, and it took them a year to get me off the waiting list. So I got off the waiting list in March, and we have just finished going through the whole first step sequence. The contractor comes in, he takes photos of the house, underneath the house, around the outside of the house. He does measurements. He creates a quote for what it will cost to do this. And he uploads all that documentation to the FEMA website. And once you're giving a number for your retrofit, you have your own little website to go to where you can see what the status of everything is. The only thing I had to do was upload the quote and a proof of residency. You have to prove you own the home, not outright, you can have a mortgage, and you have to prove that you're living in the home. So once all that's been uploaded, and we just completed that about 2 days ago, you have to wait. FEMA doesn't do things quickly. They have about an 8 to 12 week approval wait period. One important thing to note is that you must not start work before they give you approval. They tell you very clearly that if you start work before they give you approval, they won't give you the grant. They will withdraw their grant. Next slide, Nathan. So steps 3 and 4. 3 is doing the retrofit. Once you get FEMA's approval, you can then proceed to have all of the work done, and you have 6 months to actually do that work. The picture on the right shows a house which has been bolted to the foundation. You can see these steel brackets that are screwed into the foundation and then also screwed to the beams that are resting on the foundation that basically is the first floor of your house. They put these all the way around the underside of the house, spaced about 5 to 6 feet apart. So it's not a trivial job. After that's done, you go into the post retrofit, and the contractor then has to upload all the documentation and photographs showing that the work has been done. In addition, they are required to provide a photograph showing that your water heater is properly strapped, which ours already is. You have to provide a copy of the building permit with the city's final inspection and approval. And then once all of that is uploaded, you have to pay your bill to the contractor, and then you wait for FEMA to provide your reimbursement. And according to the contractor that I've chosen, he said they've done over 150 of these in the local area, and they have never had the FEMA not provide the reimbursement. So that's the brace and bolt program. Nathan?
All right, great. Well, thank you, Dan. That was a really informative, and I appreciate you sharing your experience so far with the brace and bolt program, and we wish you good luck on getting the retrofit done and getting reimbursed. Okay, let's move right along. Getting prepared for earthquakes can include some early warning. The state of California has created an earthquake early warning network known as Shake Alert. A network of sensors across the state are able to detect P waves, again, the fast moving seismic waves, and make alerts to those in harm's way. You can download an app, MyShake, that will receive these notifications to alert you of an impending earthquake. You could have a few seconds or maybe even a half minute up to a minute of warning, which is enough time to save lives and allow you to respond before the shaking starts. We encourage everybody to download this app and use it. Once the shaking starts, what do? Well, you drop. Stop what you're doing and get down on hands and knees. Earthquakes can produce violent shaking that can knock you down. The lower to the ground you are, the better off you are. Cover your head and neck with one arm and get under a sturdy object. Objects may start falling from above you or around you. Hold on until the shaking stops. If under a table or next to a chair, hold on to it. It might shake away if you don't. For other situations where it isn't easy to drop, cover, and hold, see the Earthquake Country's Step 5 online for more tips. Remember that earthquakes come in clusters. Be prepared for aftershocks. Once the shaking stops, start taking actions safely. Remember that you should have an emergency plan, so start with that. Check yourself and those around you for injuries. Provide first aid if you can. Evaluate if it is safe to stay where you are. If inside, you may need to evacuate outdoors, but remember never to do this during an earthquake. Don't call 911 to tell us there has been an earthquake. We probably know this already. Only call 911 for life-threatening conditions. If you are able, prevent further damage from occurring. Turn off utilities, gas or water, if and only if there are leaks in the house. Turn off the electrical panel if there is extensive damage to the home or there is a gas leak. Mark off areas that are unsafe to keep others away. If you do turn off your utilities, don't turn them back on yourself. Notify the City of Palo Alto utilities and wait for them to do this safely. And be forewarned, it could take a few days if things are bad. You can let others know you need help or that you're okay by placing a sign in a street-facing window. And you can find the link to that sign with the QR code that's on the screen here. You can post your status on a social media account, if you use Twitter or Facebook or Nextdoor, or use the Red Cross's Safe and Well website so family and friends know how you are. One great thing that you can do is become a resource for your neighborhood. The Office of Emergency Services sponsors the Emergency Services Volunteers Program to train community members to prepare and respond to these situations. Join hundreds of others who are making their neighborhoods more resilient. Start by visiting our website to learn more at cityofpaloalto.org/emergency volunteers. Okay, we're in the home stretch now. I won't go into detail on these, but I did want to make you aware of some other useful resources if you want to learn more about earthquake and earthquake safety. We have a lot of the information I covered today on our website at the first two links, cityofpaloalto.org/thera and /preparedness. Those are your first two links. In 2016, the city did a study of the seismic risk to our building inventory in Palo Alto, and the findings and recommendations to the city council are provided in this report. I'm sorry that I don't have a short link for it, but if you wanted to take a picture of it, you could do that now. The USGS Hayward scenario is a description of what happens across the Bay Area to a large earthquake on the Hayward Fault. It's very instructive, and I think you'll find it very interesting if you take a look at that. And the University of California, Berkeley Seismology Lab is a great resource to learn more about local earthquakes and additional resources that are available. Okay, and so at this time, if you have a question, it would be a good time to type that into the Q&A box if you haven't done that already. And David, I am trying to find that now.
You'll just have to use the chat. So far, we only had one question. I'll ask it. It's how can we find seismic retrofit contractors for Palo Alto houses?
Okay, so I'm going to I'll ask Dan Mellick to take the first stab at that answer. So Dan, how do you find local contractors to do the retrofits?
I put a note in the chat box. Basically, FEMA publishes a list on the Brace and Bolt website of approved contractors. If you're going to use a contractor and not try to do it yourself, you must use someone from that list. The list is extensive, and so when I looked at it, I chose one that just randomly. One that had an office in Palo Alto, and I only found one. And so I started working with them. They came over, gave me a quote, which I thought was reasonable, and have been very, very communicative about providing the information on the status. And they've also scheduled a preliminary start date, which is about 12 weeks out from now, which is really great. And the name of that company was boltthebayarea.com. I'm not sure I'm supposed to say that on a city's website, but I'm not a city employee, so.
Well, I think that's fine, and I'm sure they appreciate the referral you just gave them. Okay, and David, I'm not able to see the chat.
Okay,
chat
our
function.
next
So if you have a
question.
Please let us know.
Yes, our next question is, with the recent power outages, I read that one of our older neighbors with mobility impairment could not use her power chair and was very cold. An earthquake could cause an extended power outage. What recommendation would you have for her?
Okay, that is a really great question, and it's one we ought to be paying attention to. The first recommendation is for her to have a great neighbor, hopefully like the person who just asked the question. In times of duress, in times of stress, in times of crisis, there are going to be needs that are probably going to go unmet by either the individual who needs the services or the support, or the city's not going to be able to get to them quick enough. So knowing that the neighbor has some issues, has some needs, is an important first step in being able to help them solve problems. We believe that those who have who rely on medical devices that are powered should have some backup, some kind of backup power for those devices, if at all possible. If this neighbor who requires these the powered wheelchair lives alone, then they may not have the resources to be able to provide an alternate power support, an alternate power supply. And so it may just come to local neighbors who are going to get together and help take care of the person who needs the help. If there are emergency services volunteers, if there's a block coordinator on the street, that person can relay that information to us in the Office of Emergency Services. We do have some capabilities where we could help provide some backup power for short durations. And so I think that's kind of the way the system should work, is that when there's a need to elevate that to hopefully to the neighbors who are going to help fill those needs, and if not, then to the city to help if we can.
One more question. How do you know that your house needs brace and bolt?
So I'll take the first stab, and Dan, if you have additional comments, you can jump in. You have to get under your house. You have to get under your house and look. You won't know unless you go into your crawl space under your house and look to see if there are if it's bolted or if it's a cripple wall. If you have a cripple wall, if there's cripple construction. But the person asked the question specifically about bolting, so I assume they don't have a cripple wall in their house. And you just have to get down there and look. And if you're not comfortable doing that, then have someone come over who can help you with that, either a handyman or a neighbor who may be more comfortable doing that.
If you aren't sure that your house is bolted, then you can call one of the contractors and they'll come and do a free inspection for you. Their goal, of course, is to get your business if it's not bolted, but they can give you an inspection and tell you what is needed. It may not be obvious in older homes whether it's bolted or not, because the bolting won't show brackets like you see there. They may have had bolts that came up embedded in the cement and then are bolted from the top of the support beam. So you really have to look close in older homes to see whether it's bolted or not.
Yeah, and I'll just add that I live in an early 1950s home in Palo Alto, and somewhere along the way, the homeowner before me, who was the original homeowner, did bolt the house to the foundation, and those are just like what Dan mentioned. Those are just bolts, big steel bolts that come up from the concrete and bolt the frame of the house down to the foundation.
The only other question was asking if they could get a copy of the slides to read afterwards. And I just mentioned that this will be on YouTube in a few days, and you can view them there.
Okay, so David, if we have a few minutes, I realized that I didn't share my screen quickly enough. I'd like to just go back and share a few slides so people could see the content that I was describing in terms of the earthquake risk to Palo Alto.
You should be good.
Okay. Okay, and just for those who are still listening in and watching in, I was describing how the Pacific Plate and the North American Plate were rubbing up against each other, and how active the faults in California are. Many earthquakes over the the last 200 years. This snapshot is just the last week in California. So a bunch of magnitude 2, 3, and 4 earthquakes that have occurred all around us. And then the USGS's prediction of the probability of a 6.7 earthquake or larger by the year 2043 within the San Francisco Bay region. Okay, well, David, if there are there any other questions?
That is all we have.
Okay, well, so this is it's been a pleasure for me to be here with you today and talking about this topic of earthquake safety. Let me go to the very last slide one more time. Uh-oh. Okay, and let's see if I can just go to the last slide. I just wanted to give you my contact information. If you if you have any further questions and you'd like to email us or give us a call, we'd be happy to answer your questions to explain more about earthquakes, earthquake safety, preparedness, the Emergency Services Volunteer Program, or other topics that might be of interest in the realm of preparedness and the risks that we have in Palo Alto. So thank you very much. And David, I guess I'll turn it back to you.